aware that this woman is certainly going to hell and certainly would not be there in the age to come, along with the resurrected people, along with Abraham, Isaac, and the other patriarchs. That would be a table fellowship like Jesus is enjoying right now with the Pharisee in his home. There would be a table fellowship in the age to come where Jesus, the Lord, and all these people, Abraham, Isaac, and all those patriarchs would be reclining and eating together, enjoying and resting. And that scene this man can see, and this woman is nowhere there. You know, she cannot make it. There is no possibility, even remote possibility. But Jesus here is kind of, what do you say? He's turning it upside down. The whole narrative, he's turning it upside down with the story. So he brings in this small story called the parable. And every parable has a punchline. So he asks that's the last line, which of them will love him more? There's a punchline here. So who do you think would love this moneylender more? So he says immediately that the one who had the bigger debt forgiven. So Jesus' style is unique. He would make his opponent say the truth, so that they cannot deny it. Now, in the next sentence, Jesus is going to bring this matter in a different light, so that this person would be in for a surprise. So Jesus says to him, "You have judged correctly." Jesus said. Then he turned toward the woman and said to Simon. So he is looking at the woman and he's saying to him, okay, "Do you see this woman? I came into your house. You did not give me any water for my feet, but she wet my feet with her tears and wiped them with her hair." So Jesus is looking at all those small acts of righteousness that the Pharisees would actually pay attention to, because these are the things that they consider as the righteous acts, those ceremonial purity laws. If you keep them correctly, if you don't keep them correctly, then you are not waiting for the Messiah. You are not the right person. You will not be there in the resurrection gang. You are actually stopping the coming of the presence of God into the temple, the return of God, the coming of Messiah. So that is why they are moral policing these people. So those people who used to break those ceremonial laws, like Jesus' disciples would sometimes break the Sabbath, or without intending to do it, like they would eat some grain, and these people would feel offended that they are doing a harvest on Sabbath, which is not a harvest. They are just relieving their stomachs, and it is allowed according to the law, as Jesus quotes it. But still, they want to find fault with Jesus' disciples and say that these are the kind of people who are stopping the coming of the Messiah. These are the people who are stopping the return of the presence of God into the temple. So this is the excuse they give. These kind of people, these tax collectors who go and eat with the idol worshippers, they are like idol worshippers. They are idol worshippers because they eat with idol worshippers. They have broken the first two commands, and therefore they should be out of the synagogue. Their names are struck off. And then they say, we are striking their names off because these are the kind of people who are polluting our community, and these are the kind of people who are not allowing the presence of God to return into the temple. These are the kind of people because of whom the Messiah is being delayed. Even today we have in certain churches these kinds of people who would say that God is delaying his coming because of some sinners who are in the church. Otherwise Jesus would have already come. So it's the same kind of people during those times. These people are the Pharisees. They are ultra-religious, ultra-righteous in their own sight. They don't understand that what God demands is love, kindness, mercy, compassion. That is his nature. That is what these people should be showing to other people. But instead of doing love, which would in reality declare them righteous, they are doing hatred, and they think that they are more righteous than others. So here we see this Pharisee thinks that these are the kind of people, like, okay, the tax collectors and the sinners. What are these sinners? These are prostitutes and people who live immoral lives. When they live immoral lives, their names should be struck off from their books that they are keeping, a book of life that they are keeping in their synagogue, because unless they strike this off, Jesus' return would not take place. I mean, Jesus is not their Messiah. They don't believe him as a Messiah. But the Messiah, if he has to come, then the entire Israel has to be pure, is what they thought. That is why they call themselves Pharisees, set apart. We are the vigilance. We are waiting vigilantly, for the return of the Lord, and we are also vigilant about the purity of the community. So they would pay attention to these little details, like whether the ceremonial laws were followed correctly or not. So you would see often in the Bible that Jesus' disciples were criticized for not doing the ceremonial washing properly. So before the meal there would be a washing, and Jesus' disciples were just like, they would go with Jesus into the tax collector's home, and the tax collector's home is already a sinful house according to these people, and there they are eating food without washing their hands. It's not about hygiene. It is not about them getting sick. It is about they are not following the Jewish cultural tradition. And thus they are making the whole community impure. And because they are making the whole community impure, the coming of the Lord, and the coming of the Messiah, the coming of the presence of the Lord into the temple, and their deliverance from exile is being delayed. These are the people, these are the bad people who are stopping the coming of God into a community. So look at the seriousness of the crime. It's just, they didn't wash their hands. That's all what it is. But in the sight of the Pharisees, it is too much. So Jesus is actually taking their own criteria, and he is using it to declare this woman, who they call as sinful, as righteous. Well, Mr. Pharisee, I came to your house. You were supposed to give me water to wash my feet and hands. You were supposed to kiss my head. You were supposed to anoint my head with oil. I'm your special dignified guest. I'm a rabbi. You didn't do any of these things. You didn't do it. Man, you didn't do it. Which means Jesus is first finding the shortcomings of this Pharisee who is judging this woman. The Pharisee, he thinks that he would be there in the age to come. This woman would not be there in the age to come. And he believes he has some right given by God to play God in this woman's life and to declare her unrighteous. And that is what he's doing in his mind. And Jesus can read his mind. And Jesus says to him, well, are you keeping the Torah the way you demand others to keep it? I don't demand my disciples to wash their feet before eating food. I don't say that you cannot eat a little grain on a Sabbath day if you feel hungry. I don't demand people to do these kind of things which are just stretching the law a little bit more to make it uncomfortable to others. I don't do that. But you do these things. You are telling people that you shouldn't be eating with idol worshippers. If you eat with idol worshippers, you are an idol worshipper. You are telling people that you shouldn't overlook the ceremonial washings, and you shouldn't deliberately break the Sabbath. So these are your criteria. I am using your criteria. And this tone is there throughout all the Gospels, if you read them correctly. And I have done a paper on this called Jesus' Hyperboles in Matthew 5, 6, 7, the Sermon on the Mount, where I describe that Jesus was not commanding people to obey everything that he said literally. Rather, he was critiquing the Pharisees, the measure that they were using against other people. Because the Pharisees would extend one side of the law. They would say that, with God you are not sincere because you are eating with idol worshippers. Therefore, you have broken the first two commands. You have become an idol worshipper, and you are not giving glory to God only, and you are taking God's name in vain.